Hey, Doovid here. We are live. I'm about to play in the Horde weekly chess tournament. Um, I've been meaning to stream this Horde chess variant, playing it. They have a nightly tournament at 10 o'clock every night that I've been playing in for a while. Well, I haven't really been able to stream. So hopefully, people tune in. I had to stream last night on coronavirus, and God forbid everything's closed down. They usually do. Usually, they have this tournament now, but I sometimes catch a few games because I usually go to both ISKCON temples here in Farmington Hills and Detroit, and occasionally I have a few minutes, between like 3 and 4 to catch a game or two. But because of the coronavirus scare, everything is shut down. So I was actually by my parents, busy for a little bit. Oh man, so they got me playing the top guy first game. So first game streaming, I'm very likely to lose this game. He already berserked me. I mean, he only needs half the time to do it. So this guy is one of the best players in the game. And, so you'll see the simple strategy of, usually the basic idea is kind of like a breakout or arachnoid, that you want to get some sort of pieces towards you want to get some sort of pieces, sacrifice, and attack on one of the wings, and from there be able to start taking the pawns from behind. And so if you could go straight from the side, that's the best way to do it. At this point, you'd be very careful. Like, he wants to sack these pieces and eventually get behind, and he's willing to sacrifice his knight, bishop, and rook to do it. And then, it'll take me too long to stop. And I forget this variation. So, like, if I could play pawn here, he's going to sacrifice. Like, no matter what, he's going to sacrifice. So, if I play, I mean, if he does, the problem if I guess I'm going to allow him to do knight takes pawn and have his bishop in there. Okay, so he does like this, and unfortunately, if I try playing pawn here, he could just take because this pawn is pinned. So I forgot about that. And yeah, so he sacrifices, and I can't even I gotta play pawn here, so I'm probably lost already. I've seen this variation, so yeah, he's gonna sacrifice, and he'd probably win. So I mean, if he tried to, okay, sacrifices there. I'm not sure the difference, how that helped him. So I'll go like this, and this, and he could take this pawn. So I'm not sure if, I still have some chances. He's basically beat me. Oh man, I probably didn't want to give up that pawn, but I needed to stop him from doing this, and I have to review these variations. This guy's the top player in the game, or one of them. I'm about ranked 50 of all the Horde players, so very first game you get to see me lose to the best, and you see how he did it. Whether he wants to come back and take this pawn, and it's just too late. His king is too safe. His king is just a little bit too safe. And I got no choice. Go there. He probably sacrifice again. I mean, it's not over. Like, he didn't blow me off the board. I played a solid game, but I think I'm just too slow, and he's just going to snap up all those pawns, and I'm too slow. Like pawn there. I mean, so he didn't blow me off the board, but basically, and it's over. Okay, so we're streaming. Got to see the first game. See that guy's in first place, and if you see, I actually have a crown in Horde. I'm a top 100 Horde player right now. I'm ranked 52. And if you look at the community of Horde players, that guy just played as number 2. He's the second best Horde player there is. There's other people, so I'll probably play him again. There's not that many players. There's only 23 players, and so it's likely I'm going to get him again quite a few times. Some of these guys, you can see my record. So that guy I'm 0-7 against. Bro, I'm 7-6. So I think that's because I played him at Crazy House, but in Horde he's got a much better record. The Crazy House is where I got him. Wagako, I'm 16.5 and 29.5. This guy I beat once. Eranon, so a lot of these top players have beat me quite a few times. Blitznor is the guy I play at Crazy House. You see he's a little better than me at both of these games, although I've got quite a few games off him. So we played over 50 games. I've won 21. He's won 33. He's one of the top at Hot Goy, whatever. I'm 3.5, 6.5. So these are some of the top players, but these tournaments are usually very top heavy, where the majority of players playing are from the better players. So even though I'm one of the top 50 players period of this game, still it is I may not do that good in this tournament, and a lot of these guys might beat me, and I just messed up. I just made a stupid opening mistake there. I wasn't paying attention, and I already did regrettable opening error that I probably won't be able to come back from. So, like this pawn, I just can't defend. I can't stop him from defending. Like I talking, like I haven't streamed this, so these beginning games, unfortunately I'm getting beat down. So this one's going to be almost near impossible for me to come back. Like I'm almost lost, unfortunately. So he's going to be able to defend that pawn. I can't stop him. That pawn there is going to be a real cramp in my game, and you got to see, like, I'm not resignable yet, but because there's a lot of play in this, but this is not what you want to do, and you'll see if I play some weaker players and you see me win some games. So this guy's just a little bit better than me rating wise. Not wasn't necessarily expected to have a huge blowout victory against me, and then I was talking to him, made the stupid opening error, and I don't really have any good ways to get back in the game here. It's rather disappointing. So I probably have to take that. He's just going to push pawn here. I can't stop him. I could play my bishop there, but that just slows it down a move. I don't have really any good way to sack either. I guess I'll just play knight here. I mean, it's a horrible move. It doesn't even help. You could just take it and then push the pawn to c6, and surprised he didn't take it, but I got nowhere to go anyway. So whether it helped me there, better there, but now maybe I could retreat possibly. So you see, the game's not over. Like I wasted a pawn. If you gave a computer analysis, he's probably up a little bit, and good players usually just giving up that pawn, allowing him to have a protected pawn right there in the center. The guy who beat me the first round, he at the same time, he allowed me to kind of, and I messed it up. I wasn't able to hold on to it. Allow me to have like a protected pawn right there in the middle and hamper him. But in return, he was able to open up the side and start taking, but like I've not been able to do that. It's possible I could try to rearrange that, but at this point, like his thinness here in the center it will make it difficulty for him to advance. He's rather thin there in the center in defense. So I mean he still can kind of like push this pawn here at any time, and I'm not sure if I could close things off or take. I think I'm going to take that way and push the pawn here. And then he probably is going to push in and then maybe knight here is actually interesting. Like if he pushes the pawn, I might be able to get back in the game with knight f6, forking this pawn and this pawn, because this pawn on e4 is temporarily undefended. So if you tried pushing the pawn to d6 or something, and this is relatively a slow game. The nightly tournament is usually 3-0 and not 5-0. And as you saw, the guy who beat me the first game, berserked me. He didn't need all this time. So here this guy has a decent amount of time to figure out, the best way to handle this. But, he... So, yeah, I think I still get the fork. So he sacrificed the piece, but I still have this same fork. So I got my pawn back, but... So I did get my pawn back. However, this isn't looking good. So I think I got to take this and allow him to take that. Like it takes him a move or two to defend. So unfortunately, I can't stop everything. But he's only got one pawn here in the center. So he's still quite a bit better. But unfortunately for him, if I could sacrifice this knight, even for just one pawn, he could be in quite a bit of trouble. It's like I go knight here. I could have tried knight here, but knight here, and so I got to see if I take this pawn. So I guess I got to take this pawn. He could try pawn here, but the problem is he's very thin there. That so king up. If he decides to move pawn there, one thing I could move queen there. So he gives me this pawn. I could almost play queen b8 here. Even queen a8. So surprisingly, I may have came back and I almost played queen a8 and sacrificed. The question, I play queen a8 and he plays pawn there. If I should take first and then play there, I don't think he could block me up. So takes. Either way he takes, I play back. And no, he could block me up. So I got to try this first. And if he pushes this pawn, I might be able to take even. Look at that. So if I play rook here and he pushes, then I have to take. Okay, so if he takes, then I could take here. So he plays there. He got a few moves. So yeah, I got to do it. I got to go. I got to sacrifice. Hope I could get behind these pawns. So I'm not sure if that helps him because my king is going to be able to get there, and this rook is still covering the back rank. And thank God this pawn here, might still be beneficial. So king here, there. So let me see it. I got to try to take some of these pawns very quickly. So if he defends this pawn, I probably got to snap, and so I could try, if I play queen here and then he pushes this pawn, I'm not sure what kind of risk I'm running into. I better just take this pawn. It might be lost. So he goes that way. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm lost here. Queen takes pawn, pawn there. Queen takes pawn. He could queen. It looks like my only choice, although unfortunately, yeah, it's not looking good. So it looks like it's over. He could queen no matter what I do. He just queens here and I'm lost. Okay, so few people turning in. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I'm down the first 2 games. I got paired up the first 2 games, so hopefully I'll get. I didn't even tell my fellow players I'm streaming because like I'm not even that good at this relatively to these players. I've lost the first 2 games, but do my best, and presumably I'll start getting paired down at some point. And I had streamed once before after that Jasugi match. It was on a Sunday in Crazy House. I streamed a few games. Okay, so now I get paired down quite a bit. This guy's 1400, and I'll even berserk this. And okay, so good move blocking the A file first move, as they generally the quickest path to victory is to clear off one of the sides and get your pieces behind, like you saw both of those last games. This guy already gave me a pawn. Talk a little about now. He's already lost a pawn for nothing, and now he's just giving me material for no reason. I could already take queen takes pawn. So yeah, I don't know if this guy just made a few bad moves and then he decided to go crazy, but he just gave me a few pawns for nothing. And so you just be able to see, kind of like an easy crush or something. Now I have all my pieces. He's only taken a few of my pawns and just going to be easy to snip off and get behind. If I have to sacrifice a piece or two, I got plenty of pieces. So, even the guy Prometheus who crushed me, the second game I gave a pawn. I wasn't paying attention to my opening. There is some opening prep, and you have to be careful. And I just gave away a pawn for, nothing, and allowed my opponent to have a stuck pawn right there in the center, and I had no counterplay on the sides. So he kind of crushed me from there. And the Prometheus, he basically crushed me, but I didn't do anything really wrong. It was just, he got this advantage in the opening, and then just eventually broke through on the side and took all my pawns before I could develop enough counterplay. But that was relatively a textbook case of a close Horde game. The second I just gave up a pawn, and he had a tough time squeezing me. Like I had a little bit of counterplay, and it almost went down to the last move that last game. At the end, if it was one move closer, I might have won. So it was relatively a close Horde game. This guy just gave me a bunch of free pawns for nothing, and you can see like I have so many pieces here. Even if I just had my king here, even if I just had the queen. No pieces besides that, besides maybe these 2 pawns, it would be an easy defense. But like, usually you could sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns. Generally you'll see that pattern, especially in the open. It's not enough to just sacrifice pieces for 2 pawns. So you have to create an opening to get behind the pawns. So if you just, sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns, but don't do it in a pattern that opens you up to get behind the pawns and start snapping them. And because that's part of the fun of these chess variants is that there's no books on this, and there is some computer analysis, so the computer analysis isn't even that good. So for me to get better at chess, like reach master level, it's a lot of work, a lot of opening preparation, and various things. So this guy's done, and now he's not playing the last 2 moves. It's forced. He's got to play a pawn there, and I take it, and a pawn there, and I take it. I could even pre-move it. Okay, so I got on the board there. You see, I'm not down that many rating points. The second guy was just unexpected. The first guy, unfortunately, Prometheus, and it looks like he stopped playing. Like he might beat me every game. He's from the best at it. He's rating expectancy is to beat me 9 out of 10, maybe more. The other guys, like the guy played last game, like, I'm expected to get 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 games against them. It looks like Prometheus has stopped. So you'll see like opening tips. So now I'm playing Wagaku, and he's actually in the number 1 place. And you see we played quite a few games, and he's actually beat me 5. Wow, he's beat me 7.5 of the last 8 games. And he's playing basically the exact same line as the last guy did. And I'm not sure if this is the right way. I think I could play pawn there, and that's an opening idea, but then he's going to take everything. I'm going to lose this pawn. Otherwise, I could play pawn here, and he could probably break through, but it's more questionable. So here, he could force the breakthrough. Queen comes back, but we'll say it's less clear. I have more counterplay than my game against Prometheus. He's still relatively doing quite good here, and it's questionable how I stop him from just playing queen here, back and sacrifice, or how much counterplay I could generate. I don't really want to lose this pawn, so like if I take here, he probably already has a significant advantage this way, so he's just going to play pawn there. And if I play, pawn here, he's just going to play queen back here and go straight through with the sacrifice. Although, saying like this is a much different situation here. And if you look at the pieces here, he could start coming in, but I have much greater chances at counterplay. So even I immediately popping in the center, I might be able to push these pawns. So I think I'm not sure the best way to go about this. It's probably largely a pretty even game here. So like even here, I'm not sure how quickly he could take these pawns, because I'm not sure if he's in trouble even here. If I go pawn here and he could take, and I'm breaking through, so now I got to play pawn here, and if he takes, so I have this long chain protected now. And I could even pressure him some. So depending on how he goes about it, that probably didn't help. Now he's just going to be able to sacrifice. That was bad. Now he just sacrifices. I'm probably spanked, although he didn't sacrifice yet. He probably just do it any move. So right when he does knight takes pawn, it's basically over. Yeah, so that's over. So I didn't successfully stop him from breaking through on the queen side in my counterplay, although it was possibly closer than against the first game Promethean. It just wasn't enough. And if I have time, there's a whole nother 2 hours. I'm not sure how long I'm going to stream this. Yeah, I like Horde. Horde's one of my favorite variants now. But so you're getting to see Doooovid lose to some of the top players, and that guy I've already played, as I said many times. He gets almost 2 out of 3 games against me. But you probably will see me play him a few more times, so we'll see if I get him another game. So this guy has already basically fallen for not having properly prepared to stop me from breaking through on the queen side. And there's a little way. So just the basic opening, what you're going for is this knight sacrifice here. You're going to push the pawn up to attack the pawn here, and then to sacrifice the knight, and then to sacrifice the rook. And that's the basic pattern. And I'm going to take this way, and I'm going to bring the bishop here, and I'm going to bring my queen to a8, and I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to start taking his pawns from behind. And you see, even here, he's going to play pawn here. I'm probably losing my bishop, but I'm already nibbling on his pawns. I have enough material, so I'm not even going to do anything about it. I'm going to let him take because it slows him down. And now I'm just going to eat these pawns from behind. If he takes, that's fine. I nibble this chain. It's like a pawn chain there. I could sacrifice the knight. And if you get to these pawn chains from behind, they just they fall one after behind. That's why Horde is fun. That's why it's a cool game. You could have tried stabilizing the chain. That check there doesn't do too much. Like, you could try pushing pawn up there, and then I get behind, and you see this whole chain now is undefended. I do have to be a little bit careful. So I'm gonna play defensive and nibble this pawn here and try to force out. I probably could have just safely eat these pawns here without worrying, but just to limit counterplay, possibly because my rook isn't in a good position, he could have queened and but now this whole pawn chain is going to fall. There are sometimes stalemate traps because if you take all of white's pieces and it's stalemate, it's a draw. So you have to be a little bit careful sometimes with the pieces that you take. But he's got so many pawn moves here, it's not a big deal. It's going to nibble this. And, as anyone knows from regular chess, the quickest way to take the pawns is from behind because the pawns only move forward. Okay, so I'm in the top 10 now. So right now I'm playing like a little bit up. The people I played have been significantly lower rated, as opposed to the 3 games I lost. We'll see. So streaming and talking is a little bit harder than regular. So hopefully a few people are watching. Hopefully it'll be useful to the fellow Horde players or people who are interested in understanding a new variant. I've searched out for Horde commentary. Okay, so this Vasilix recognized that me in the chat that I'm doing this. Okay, so he goes straight for the same A4. Actually, okay, so he does something different. This interesting. We'll see what's going on here. But what he's doing is force your opponent to make a move. Like, what happens if basically and you'll see the strategy in Horde is very common of just moving your pieces back and forth. Eventually I could play a few more moves, but like eventually I'm gonna have to take this pawn there, and eventually I'm gonna have to sacrifice a pawn. So I could play pawn here, and then I'm gonna lose this pawn. So the only way, if I played pawn there, I might lose a pawn. And actually here, he could have traded the bishop for 2 pawns and brought his king out, but chose not to. I'm not sure. I think Simonov plays this a little bit differently. So I'm thinking that possibly he didn't play this best. And I don't think he really wants to sacrifice here. I mean, he could bring the knight in here and do the regular sacrifice. But because he chose this opening, I think the bind I have on his pieces are so severe that he may have a hard time clearing it off. So, if he does the typical sacrifice right now, oh man, I just hung a pawn. I wasn't paying attention. I was blabbing, and I pushed the pawn. I gave away a pawn for nothing. Like, certainly the worst move I could have made, I just made. Unfortunate. So I was blabbing, but although he is going to lose that knight anyways. So, from some perspective, I was blabbing and made a poor move, but he does. His knight's got nowhere safe to move. So, when I pushed that pawn up, that was just butt dumb because this pawn was the only thing defending this pawn. That's the interesting thing of Horde. Spiritually, we're thinking like, I when I was first playing, it's like this game should be called Peasants Revolt. It kind of has a spiritual different understanding than calling it Horde, which I guess is more biological, evolutionary. But this kind of idea of I don't really want to take that. So I guess he doesn't have anywhere to go, or you could bring the knight in here. So I have to see what he could do. So I think I just take here. I mean, I think I just play here. Like if he retreats, that's fine. Because in fact, if he retreats, that would allow me to even maybe push this pawn. So maybe that will allow me to push pawn here, and push these pawns here. So either he goes, so he has to go back to his earlier strategy of just moving the pawns back and forth, and so like I will have to take this knight, but at this point I think it's going to benefit me to advance these pawns first, which isn't always the case. You have to know whether it hurts or benefits you to push the pawns before you do it or not, or where if I want his rook on this square or that square. So let's assume it's going to be worse for his rook to be on that square. And I think this is the point that I wanted to push here. And I guess that could have been really bad. That might have been really bad because now I can't push here without allowing this sacrifice. So I'm not sure. I could also consider pushing some of these pawns, like pawn here, and advancing some of these pawns. I'm not sure if that's what I want to do, if it's going to be good or bad. Oh, yeah, I just made that same, what I was saying fell both ways. So, so he is trapped here. So this is, if you're into the theory of the game, this line is kind of like your pure theory because it hinges upon let me just move that one. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to give up this pawn, and I probably can't give up that pawn. So I could try a few different things. I could try pawn here and takes, pawn takes. So I probably have to do this, and we'll see what his reaction is, and so this is looking pretty grim. Like, I mean, he's probably got to go back, and I got to defend this pawn. But now I've created the potential for something more serious here, and then I could see if I could potentially push this pawn here. That I will have to sacrifice a few pawns, but maybe I could push pawn here, and he is in a little bit of danger. So he already plays this move here, which one thing, I could play pawn here. That's an interesting move, and like his sacrifice. And so if I play pawn here, he's got to play queen here, and I don't know what I could do then. Like, I mean, then he's in a complete bind. Maybe I could try advancing through this way and sacrificing the pawn, or so I guess I'm going to go for that. I could have just, I should have just taken it. That was horrible. That was the worst move possible. Like, I forgot I should have just taken that. Okay, so here, I think I got to just play this. So unfortunately, I'm really weak here in the center, but I think he, like, I'm just going to be able to pound right here in on him. So I think he messed that up. I probably should have just taken and then it covered. It would have been, I would have won the bishop for nothing. So now he, might take it. He might, try moving the knight in. If he doesn't, do something quickly, I could, try playing pawn here. And unfortunately for him, he can't attack these pawns. His queen, if he moves his queen here, I'm threatening pawn here, which, if his queen is there, pawn there, and then he's okay. So I think I have to do this. He's still trapped, and I could consider playing out that way, but So I guess I got to go here, which maybe I didn't want to go there. Maybe maybe I'm in some trouble now. And so whether I got pawn here, pawn there. So, I mean, he's definitely in a bind. Like, his pieces are really trapped. And, but I got to let him out here. So he could play knight takes pawn there. And, you know, the hope that allows me to play pawn here. And, okay, so he goes that way. So if he plays knight takes pawn, now this move, you know, I got to push pawn here so he can't. But the problem is I can't push this pawn without giving up that pawn. Like, I'm really at a lack of material here. And, you know, what happens if he does nothing? And, you know, I got to keep on making moves because time's ticking down. So, you know, the idea might be pawn here and then pawn here. So I'm not sure he could do anything here. I think he just moves back forth. But the idea, okay, so he allows me taking there. So now we're going to try to move in this way. You know, I still basically have the same idea. So you pawn here, it gives rook out of there. Okay, that's fine. So you can't really, you know, do anything so much. So there, I think I could play pawn there. Like, he moved his bishop. That allows me pawn here. And now he's in significant trouble. Okay, so now time is ticking. I think I got him. I got to, you know, we played down to the line. Okay, he resigned. So that we're right down to the line. He can't stop pawn there. It's double defended. So even with 20 seconds, I probably would have been able to win that. So thank God, you know, show my worth a little bit on my stream. Didn't, you know, want to stream just to, you know, I got a little bit of an ego and didn't want to just play myself losing to these top players. And see, my performance rating is under par, so to say. It's there's only like 70 players over 2,000, and you know, even in the top 200, you'd be like 1,800. So, you know, relatively, this is skewed to the top. It's unclear if like really good players. I've played. I'm going to berserk this guy. So if I win this game, I'll get 5 points for that, and they'll put me into the competition to be towards the top of the pack. A little bit quick, you know, this guy is a 1,500 player, you know, so I'm going to assume, you know, he may not know the best strategy, and 2.5 minutes should be fine. Top players like Promethea even did that to me, although this guy's only played 50 games of this. So, I mean, that's a number to have played 50 games, but, you know, we'll see. And this is, you know, a tough opening. The idea, like, I already have my pawn kind of solidified here, so if he plays a5, he's going to have a hard time getting his knight there. So I'm worried about him playing h5 and opening up this, so I'm going to try to block that off. So I think I might have successfully done it. So I think I could play pawn there and then pawn here. And even though I'm opening up his rook file, I'm going to be able to play pawn here, and you maybe. So I think this is to my advantage. So you see, you know, how this looks, and you know, push some of these pawns. I'm going to be a little careful. So he's already repeating moves, and you know, so I'll just keep on pushing my pawns, and you know, try to be defensive, intelligent about it, and you know, saying because he's a newer player, he may not play the toughest defense. So if you like the first game, I lost to Wastlick, and I just made a stupid mistake in the beginning, and then, you know, basically after that, I played, you know, kind of like an expert strength Horde game, and he was still able to beat me because, you know, at that point it was too late. Oh my God, did I just butcher this up? Wow, that's a big error. Yeah, I really messed that up. I didn't mean to allow him this. That was a good play on his part. So I have to take here and there, and then okay. So he should have taken immediately. He didn't take. It allows me a little bit of repose on that situation, but I was a little worried there that he almost could have even been winning, but you'll see. I'll go pawn here, and I want to play pawn here and pawn there, and pressure his bishop. But that's a good move. So got to cover my squares, and so probably I'm going to have to allow him to sacrifice here. I'm going to have to play pawn there. At this point, it looks like at some point I'm going to have to give up a pawn. But we'll give him a few moves and see what he does. So he's probably doing it best just moving back and forth. And I guess I'll go here because he should take the pawn. I'm giving him a pawn. He should take it. He didn't take the free pawn. I gave him a free pawn. He didn't take it. So not sure what was up with that. And now he's basically lost. Now I'm going to just be able to force my way through. And push another few pawns and I don't even have to take that. I could take it next move, pawn there. Like he's in serious trouble. Let me just play pawn there. Compound his trouble, and I could even take that with check. Then take that, and even play. Actually, I'm going to defend that. You'll be a little careful, and there's time factor also, so I could still mess it up. And he's a bad situation because his knight is rook is trapped in. He has to do something to free his knight and rook, and if he doesn't, one thing he'll back the back rank trouble that his rook doesn't defend his back rank, and so he has to do that to open it, and it looks like. Within time, I'm just going to be able to push these pawns. So I'll even open it up, just get rid of his bishop. Defend my pawns. These pawns are so close to queening that, he's in significant trouble. And, he probably can't afford to try running, taking the pawns. And these pawns are advancing anyways. And it'll likely be close to mate when I eventually push through. Okay, so push through, defend, pawn here. Oh, that was bad. Okay, I didn't mean to give up this pawn, but it should be enough because and he didn't even take it. He could have taken that pawn for free. He didn't. Now we'll push it, and it should be over. But it is close 10 seconds. There, is always possible stalemate possibilities. And so just check. I'll get the queen off. Get another queen. And keep him out of stalemate. That's mate. Okay, so that was down to 4 seconds. Got to be careful on those. And get to fix my reputation a little bit. That at least I have a positive score now. And in the top, I played 7 games, 4 out of 3. But as I said, as I play more, I'm going to play more and more of the stronger players. And this guy Prometheus, he only played 4 games, won 4 games, berserked every one. I'm only now, slightly behind him. So if he doesn't come back, I might, get behind these players. And there's a certain time thing, these arenas you get, the more you play in terms just a game. I do this largely to keep my mind sharp and think and philosophize. But once you're playing, I guess the nature of the games you play to win, and it adds a little ego or whatever, what place you're in. But I mean, to some respect, it doesn't matter. Just doing this game because it's interesting, a way of thinking. And once I clear my mind and get in a zone where I feel I'm playing at my level of concentration Horde and talking about it, I try to mention some more of these philosophical ideas. Okay, so bro berserks me. I won't return the berserk because this guy usually beats me. And as I said, I think the games I beat him were in Crazy House. And so he goes straight blocking up. Usually you play in the center in the beginning. But there's a reasonable strategy to just playing to block up the sides as the first thing. And I could just move the rook back and forth and kind of wait to see what he does, or I could try to create a certain type of blockade, like a dark square or light square blockade, like here. And we've actually, I think, had similar games. So he pushes right away to try to prevent my making a blockade. I could still play like queen here and allow him in. So I mean, at this point, no matter what I do, he's going to be able to push pawn here. And so I think maybe I take and get greedy and try to get this pawn here and see if he takes back. Yeah, so I won a pawn. It's not much, and we completely opened out the center. And so it's unclear how good me winning the pawn is, although I still also semi have this blockade because at least the threat to sacrifice. And I guess he's going to come in right here right away, so I better block that. And so at least now when he tries to push, I'll at least be able to sacrifice. So I probably have to play something like pawn here, and now it's a waiting game where basically I could consider trying to rearrange this knight, like a knight here, and put the bishop here, and maybe even bring the bishop here and see if he could. Let's see what he does. So so he wasn't aggressive in the center right away. So I could probably play bishop here and then knight here. And I'm not sure if I want a castle. So if I want my rook here to prevent him from playing pawn there, and then eventually, or if I want my king, or if I want my queen off of this square. So as of now, eventually he's going to have to play the bishop. So I'm not sure if I want to get my queen off of the square to retreat, or if I want to have my king specifically on that square. And like eventually I'm probably going to have to, sacrifice right there in the center. He's going to have to play like pawn here. And pawn here is almost definitely the next move. I could consider backing up. Or I could consider, so at this point, it's coming. He's playing pawn there, and I could either take it, then take here. I could try, throwing in some sort of pawn take there if that's any benefit, or I could play queen there and consider backing up the bishop and delaying it. But that doesn't look good. So it looks like I'm going to have to sacrifice the piece for... Okay, so here it goes. I'm going to go this way. And I guess I'm going to take with the knight, because now either way he's opened me up a sacrifice. So I'm not sure how good. I think I'm going to do pawn takes. And if he does pawn takes knight, I'm going to do pawn takes there. And then I'm actually breaking through. So I could do queen takes pawn, and I'm breaking through. So yeah, I better take this pawn. So I want a pawn out of that. And, he's pretty thin. So this game is looking relatively good for me. He's in a little bit of difficulty, but I'm not one here. My knight can't move. I have to question whether I just have to sacrifice my knight for nothing or leave it here, or whether I could rework my queen somehow. Like if trying like rook here, queen here is even beneficial, or what he's going to do, the time pressure. Obviously he berserked. So I'm not sure if I want to. He's going to play pawn there and pawn here, pawn there, and I can't really stop that. I don't know if coming this way is quick enough. Like pawn there is going to come quick, although I don't have to take it. Knight here, I don't know how much that slows him down. I didn't want to play this move, but I'm going to play knight here. Time is ticking down. And yeah, he's just going to take it. And we'll see what type of difficulties he has. And, presumably he's going to play pawn there. And, he's going to have a hard time coming in with the other pawn to defend. And I guess I don't even know if I have a threat. Like, rook there takes is too slow. So he has to sacrifice a pawn to try to do something there, but just move back and forth, take. So this way I would have, gotten 2 pawns, but let's see what happens. I'm going to take a pawn. Okay, I think I was more scared that he would play like that, so at least he's blocked here. So, he goes like that. That's tough moves. Like time is definitely a huge issue here. I let him do that. Maybe it was good or bad. Man, I can't let him go there. Yeah, it took me too long to find that. I'm losing this one on time. Although maybe I could bust out a few quick moves. He's got to be really careful. So, wow, it's almost mate. Yeah, I walked into mate. Busted out on time. Yeah, that was I lost my streak there. Bro, say he's in second place there. So you'll see that I'm going to keep on playing these people in the top bracket over and over again. That and it's a different setup I've mentioned than chess.com, where you kind of just play random people. As we're here, you play the people towards the top again and again. So I'll get like 1 or 2 games against these guys, and then I'll get paired down. So that's the nature of these tournaments. And so if I was playing on, they don't have this on chess.com or any other server. So even though relatively of the variants, this is my best variant, due to the fact that not that many people play it, and the people who do play it are usually the top players. But I got 10 people watching. I appreciate not too much happening in the chat. So if anyone, a little bit of a wait here. I'm not sure why I'm waiting so long to get a game. But that's part of the nature. There's a lot of waiting, and it's a problem, that the waiting, as opposed to chess.com. You'll see if any of these people, and sometimes the new better players will come in, they'll quickly get to the top. So I'm not going to berserk this guy. So I don't want to risk losing. If he were under 1600 or even under 1700, at some point I don't want to lose for nothing. So I think I could get my knight maneuver here. Now he can't stop it, and so I got my knight in the sacrifice. And the difference, preferably, if you saw the guys who beat me went on the queen side. So generally, the reason you want to sacrifice on the queen side is so you don't have to move your king out of the way to sacrifice your rook. And it's not that difficult. Like almost always, you could move your king around in this position. Is going to be relatively easy. But so if it was on the queen side, you move the bishop, and then you bring your queen over, and then you sacrifice. So here in this position, I either got to move my king here or there. And okay, so he just drops a pawn for nothing. You didn't want to do that. Make it easier. But so if he had played the absolutely best moves, it would have made it more difficult. But even in this situation, if he plays pawn there, that's probably a good move. And so let's just go for it. We'll see. Like, if he takes pawn there, so now if he plays pawn there, I can't. I was thinking to sacrifice the bishop, but now I can't because of this pawn. But now next move. So either he takes this pawn, I take back with the bishop, or I'll be able to conduct some sort of sacrifice. So here he could take the bishop. So I think my idea was knight takes pawn here, and then to take this. And if he takes this bishop, I'll take that pawn. And I likely don't even have to sacrifice the rook. Now, the bishop could come through here, although, bishops behind pawns are notoriously difficult to, take, that I'm not even threatening. I have no method to take more pawns with this bishop. So to be a little careful, the queen, just open up this diagonal. So I'm not sure. Oh, I have bishop here, so I wasn't thinking. Okay, so now I have bishop here, and we'll see if I get a pawn. So he tries to defend. Let me take this pawn. He probably should play pawn here, although he does that way. That might also be good. And it's a little worse than I'd like this position to be, because like he does have all these pawns, and like I'm a little scared to sacrifice. I bring my rook back. My queen could enter without sacrificing, although God forbid, I'm looking here, like my king is still problematic. So even here, like he's already, if he chooses to win the rook, he could win the rook now. So he didn't choose to win the rook, and he may regret that. He probably should have won the rook when he had the chance. Although okay, so now he's playing this way, and I probably got to sacrifice a rook, and that may have been bad, just to do that straight up and pawn there. Even to stop these two. So rook there at least. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to bring my queen back here, and now I'm threatening to take here, and then these pawns will fall. So this was a little closer than I probably should have made it. He played there to try to hold on to these pawns, and then I could probably just snap there, and I'm threatening to take there, and pawns are slow. So even if he takes the rook, like the queen's behind the pawns, he only has a few sparse pawns left. He can't defend me. If he tries to defend the pawn, I'm just going to take whatever he does to defend. If he pushes there, I'm going to take here. If he pushes again, I'll take there. And I can't be stupid, but this is basically one now. These pawns are going to fall. He can't defend these pawns. If he plays, so I'll take that one first. I'll take this one. And counterplay, switching to the other side for counterplay is extremely slow. I shouldn't have given that pawn. That was dumb. That was a poor move. I didn't want to do it like that, but I'm still fine. So take like that, and I'm just going to take, and I think it's over. Okay, I'm going to snap this pawn, and 2 pawns against the king can't do anything. Even 3 pawns against the king, sometimes the king could stop, but here this pawn's dropping, and so the game, no stalemate tricks, no nothing. And a lot of times Horde people play to the very last move. You're playing the pawns. Like sometimes you could resign, the game, like sometimes there's stalemate tricks at the very end or something like that. But because there's no definitive checkmate, a lot of times, even I'll play it to the very last move many times. Okay, so still 5 out of 9. As of now, I've lost paired up, 1 paired down, except the 2 games I played against Waslick, 1-1. A few different strategies, and I haven't really talked through this. So at the same time, I've played 880 games. We have a Discord. I joined the Discord, so there is a Discord for variants that I've joined, and there's actually the Crazy House World Championship coming up, and there's a Horde in it. Some of the top players are in it. I don't know. Maybe this guy is streaming Horde, and that's why he's listed there. I'm not sure. I mean, there's very few Horde players. Some of the top players will stream their games without commentary, but I've seen a few other people that do variants do like a Horde stream, but they're not regular Horde players, and none of the top Horde players, as opposed to like Jan Lee and Grady's Crazy House, where the top player is also top streamer, and there's other streamers like Mudwork or even Oki. There's not too many top players that stream and comment on Horde, and there's actually very little material on it, period. So Wagatko here only lost 2 games. Pretty powerful, 112, lost 2, and he's berserked 2/3 of them. So yeah, I've definitely got games off him. We got over 16 games off. He's approved recently because his ratings went up. Like, in fact, but yeah, very profound. He's destroying basically everybody else. Okay, so we get this common opening. There's a few different patterns here, and one idea is this idea, is to cover these key squares, and this pattern where he's okay, so he took with the bishop, and okay, so I should be okay here. I could consider even something like pawn here, and then if he brings his knight around, I mean, he should play pawn a5 right away. If he doesn't play a5, I'll probably play it. So I think I should take that. If he takes with the rook, I'm going to push the pawn, and yeah, so I allowed him to possibly get in more than I should have, although I might be able to defend this. I'm not sure if I'm better off trading this pawn or not. If I don't trade it, he's definitely going to do something about it. So, if you take, you get prepare. So he has some chances of sacrificing here. So I'm not even sure if I'm better off taking with this pawn and having more stuff over here to prevent the sacrifice. So usually you want to take towards the center, but in this position, and especially here, I'm leaving myself very weak with only 2 pawns in the center. I shouldn't have taken that. I should have. That was a poor move. That was a really poor move. Yeah, that was a poor move. Now I'm losing 2 pawns for nothing. That was really bad. Okay, so he didn't take, so I only lost 1 pawn for nothing. Yeah, I messed this up. He's definitely probably at an advantage here, although he has to break through somewhere. He has to be able to sacrifice the pieces. I'm thin here in the center with only 2 pawns. If I push the pawn here, I don't know if he has a direct route to sacrifice to win. If it was top player, maybe would have devised out a direct route to sacrifice and victory. the game's going relatively slow, so just go here, defend that pawn. I could already consider pushing there, so I think he went about it wrong. I don't think he wanted to allow me to do this. So I don't think his sacrifice in the center really works, and I'm not sure I want to push where I want to push next. I think I want to push here. So his knight is somewhat blocked off. Oh, that's his idea. Okay, I can't take. So that was his idea. I can play here. So he can't come back. So I couldn't really have done anything about him doing that. So I'm not sure, so his idea of going after that weak pawn may not have been the wisest. And, even here, this sacrifice doesn't break through because he needs more pieces and he's not going to be able to get I'm going to lose this pawn, though. I didn't want to lose that pawn, but I'm losing that pawn. But even losing that pawn, he's not breaking through. So, he could bring his rook around and sacrifice. I have to be very careful. I don't think that was a good sacrifice on his part, but I don't see what he just did. He just went crazy. Yeah, I don't know what. He just went crazy and thought he had something that he didn't. So, that game is that the guy butchered a decent game. I think he had the advantage. I messed that up, and if he had found the right way to slowly force me forward, he would have been able to probe a weakness. But due largely, I guess, to inexperience, he went about it the wrong way, and I was able to win. So I'm actually now on a streak. If I get paired down or have a good result, I could almost be in competitive for the top 3, and there's still an hour and a half. So Westlick here, if he stops playing Turkey Chili, I've had good results against him. He also plays Crazy House. So I'm 14-4. Some of these games are Crazy House. Okay, so this is typical strategy. Sometimes pawn here, pawn there. I got to decide which way to go. If I want to go pawn here this way, since he's already played pawn there, I'm probably slightly more chances trying to go this way. In fact, I think I could already play pawn here, and he's in some trouble because I'm already threatening. So I'm not sure what he was thinking. He had to defend against this h5 move or something. So when he played d3, here he played d3. He probably had to play something in defense of h5, although possibly he could take, and then play f5. So I've played this where people, we'll see what he does if he takes. I've played people that have sacrificed, let this pawn be there in order to try to break through immediately and have successfully beaten me. So he didn't even do that. So I'm not sure. Turkey Chili, unfortunately, is not playing the most strategic defensive move. So now I take with the bishop and take with the knight, and it's going to be hard for him to stop me from breaking through. So, but you see, he had moves that made it more difficult, and so here he just decides to completely sacrifice a pawn, and then so I could just take the pawn and retreat, which I guess that's what I got to do. So he recognized he messed up and decided to try to just sacrifice a pawn. And so the game's not over. I want a pawn out of that. I'm not going to be able to break through. He's down to 3 here. He's been weakened in his defense. I already have a clear strategy for defensive line. This knight is probably going to be in the way. We're worried whether he could play pawn there immediately. I probably got to bring that knight back. But I have a strong dark square defense. I could consider playing pawn here right away. And so if he does play there to sacrifice there, yeah, that might be a good move on his part to just try to liquidate this this pawn. So I'm going to play knight here just to prevent this pawn from being played there, or at least I'll be able to sacrifice and really thin him out if he does that. And so if I play knight here, he could conceivably push the pawn, or if I play pawn there. So let me try this. So take. You know, bishop there. I'm threatening this pawn. I'm also threatening pawn here, and I got to rework my pieces. I'm not sure if he has a quick bust or something where he could try to play something that's going to cause me problems. I'm going to try to run my king and maybe even the bishop, and so I'm trying to prevent you know, certain breakthroughs. So I'm not sure if I want to play queen here. Yeah, I guess I got to play queen here, and I'm not sure where my bishop is best. Like, I got to stay on this pawn right now. I could consider just moving my king back and forth and force it upon him. I'm also threatening this pawn here, so I probably should take it, and he might be able to. Okay, so he gives me a second pawn, and then just retreat. So, you know, it's going to be a similar situation where I was at some point likely to just be moving my king back and forth. I'm not sure if there's any better rearranging I could do than just to wait. Try like this, threaten to have an extra piece on that pawn. And, you know, so he takes, and I'll probably push. And maybe I messed that up. I didn't want to do that because now we could push pawn. Although when he pushes pawn there, the idea is when he pushes pawn here, I'm going to be able to take this pawn. So I guess I'll keep here. So eventually he's likely to play pawn there, and I'll be able to take. So I'm going to take. Well, now when he pushes pawn there, I can't sacrifice. So I might have messed that up a little bit. So we'll see if he plays that immediately. Otherwise, I'll retreat my queen immediately so it can't be attacked. And now I could also look at trying to take this knight out and see. Okay, so definitely got to retreat the queen. I'm probably going to have to retreat this bishop too, although I'm not sure where I'm going to retreat it to here. So I think I'm going to go knight there for a second. So instead of threatening to sacrifice this pawn, I'm putting extra pressure here. I'm going to try to work this knight out in the time being. So, okay, so I got to be careful because pawn there could be risky. So now that I have this knight, I've switched the defense to these dark squares instead of threatening here. And we'll see if I could rework the knight. I'm going to see what I do if he pushes pawn there right away, whether I have any tricks or whether knight there even threatens anything. Okay, so that's what he does. He's got to sacrifice. Now I'm on this pawn. I think he's in trouble. Yeah, so there, and now I'm going to be able to play queen there and break through. We'll see how quickly he crashes through here. So I mean, he could block me, but yeah, I'm getting behind. I'm going to be able to snap these pawns. I'm not sure how quickly his attack is coming because pawns move slow. You know, saying like to move 2 files of pawns, you're talking like 4 moves, and especially if I could take these pawns, like one. You know, he can't even push pawn there. He has to prepare it. So now if he pushes pawn there, this pawn hangs. So each of the last 3 moves I've taken pawns, and he still hasn't advanced towards my king. So now definitely have to be careful. But maybe I should have taken that while I had the chance. I think I could just play knight here, and it divides up his pawns, and probably just here, and yeah, don't worry about that. Take. So not sure if that was the right one. So okay, so it's coming down to the last second. Yeah, I don't know. He shouldn't have done that. Although maybe that works. I gotta bring my king over quick, but I think I could slow him down. Like, his time is really ticking. So my king could stop these pawns, and I was to bring that back and win that. He's not, 2 pawns. It takes more than he had there. No, they're just stopped. Okay, as I said, a lot of players play till the end. It doesn't matter. Take. Okay. So I got a streak. I got 4 points for that one. To do the week in review, just talking to my co-host. It's interesting. I enjoy chess so much that, like, a lot of times I forget to eat. That I play so much chess that I literally forgot to eat. So gotta put some food in me. I gotta finish this. There's still another hour left of this. I'll say Simonov is not here. Thank God I still got 6 people watching. Vasily. Oh, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, good game. Let's play each other again. We're in tight competition here. So you maybe, I don't know if you stream or you want to talk or join the Discord. Good games. And generally, I mean, it's competitive. People play to win. Like, usually the reason people play, they like winning, sharpening their mind. The best way to demonstrate how well you're playing the game is by winning. But there's camaraderie among the players that want to see it promoted and more people join the game or just understand the game better. So if he plays, okay, so sometimes the person, okay, so this is somewhat similar. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he's doing. I guess. Oh, I forgot that that's check. Yeah, and that was dumb on my part. This all comes with check. So I messed that up. This was a poor strategy. And then I walked into a fork. You could have just played pawn there, fork real quick. So I lost a pawn basically for nothing. And I got too greedy on my attack. So it's unclear how this is going to turn out. and he could still do this fork. I gotta let him do it because maybe I have some hope of breaking through here. So at this point, like I gotta break through, or else like I'm just lost. And but he is in trouble that he's gonna have a hard time defending. So take that. So I'm not sure. This is interesting. So you see here, I've eventually broken through, but I may have given up too much material doing it. It's notoriously difficult to it takes so long to push these queenside pawns. So he tried to set up some sort of net, and your pawn there. I got to take my knight out, and so I wanted to grab a bunch of these pawns enough, and then maybe be able to nibble off. And so I'm not sure if he's threatening something. I mean, if he pushes pawn there, I got to bring the knight out. So I should probably. I'm going to take the pawns this way, and hopefully I just sacrifice the knight, and even if I have to sacrifice the knight and the rook. So I think I'm actually looking pretty good here. You go over these games with computer analysis, and that was, I'm not sure, yeah, I think that pawn just falls. So obviously you do pawn check here, and if I bring the king up, I think I'm winning this, but I got to be a little bit careful. I mean, obviously pawn check here, and I got to bring the king up, and if he pushes the pawn, it's going to take with the knight, and then these pawns are going to fall. So so I'm not sure if I want to do queen here, allow pawn here, then king here, and yeah, I think that's probably my better option. I could have played knight there, but I think this is working better. So I'm just going to take that, and I think I'm going to bring my king this way quickly, and I'm going to take that. I'm going to take here, and I'm going to bring my queen in this way, and bring the king in around this way. Consider snapping this pawn. Do I have? I mean, so if he checks, check, take, I take with the queen, no problem. These pawns are hanging, so I'm just going to take that, and yeah, just take with the queen. It's no worry. I could do a few things, but I think this is the easiest. Queen there. And if he takes, be careful. King takes pawn. He could have went back. So, so I go here, and then king here, and I bring the rook back, and it looks like it's should be fine. I'm not sure. I mean, I could probably just sacrifice and take that, but I'm not sure I have to. I'm going to sacrifice and take because he's got nothing. He eventually has to push this pawn forward, and then it's all going to crumble. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, if I took that, that would have been a pretty bad mistake, although I'm probably still winning, even if I took that. But, now he's got to give up the pawn. Just no way for him to stop these pawns. And I guess it doesn't matter which one I take. They're all crumbling. Okay, so it's tough to talk for so many hours. Sorry, I'm talking less. I guess, most people watching the stream probably like the chess, so sorry for the silence there. Okay, so I got a little streak going there. And my rating is increased. I think I got my top 50 crown back just as I spoke. But so thank God, Luke Harley's a tough opponent. He's beaten me in the past before, so that was a tough game. People saw a little bit of that strategy. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's any advantage to me berserking. It was actually Felistine. I was playing this and getting whacked, and then Felistine was, playing a different strategy. So here, he doesn't play the bishop there, so it's likely he wants to immediately bring the knight in. So I forget if I want to play pawn here first. I think I got to stop him from playing h5. Although obviously he could play pawn there or various things, and I think we've had this in a game recently where I said if he plays pawn here, I could probably close it up, and I got to be careful, but yeah. So I think I could close it up like this, and he's not going to be able to pound through. I'm going to be able to take and then play pawn here. So I'll play pawn here immediately. And I could really just take pawn there. So I'm actually going to completely prevent him from coming in. And, he does have the bishop takes pawn threat. So just solidify, bring some stuff up. It's not 100% clear what's going on here. So I'll just push some of these pawns, give myself a little bit better defense. And obviously you could do like knight takes pawn and a whole bunch of sacrifices. I don't think that's going to help. So he goes for it. So I think I just take and then play pawn there. So I don't really see why he did this. I don't think it. So he does have pawn here, right? So I think I got to play pawn here right away to stop him from playing pawn there, and then here, and I'm defended, and he can't play bishop there. Thank God if he was able to, brought his bishop in to sacrifice, it could have been problematic. But so if the knight does come around, I think I'm still okay. So if he so he takes there. So I definitely got to be careful, but let me see. I don't. Oh, I messed that up. Now he's getting right in. So knight here, and he's in. And although, can I stop him? If he plays knight takes pawn, can I force his queen out? So I'm not sure. Like this. Oh, I gave up a lot of pawns here. This is bad. The knight is definitely better than the bishop behind pawn. So like I said, so this is not looking good. Like this guy should almost definitely win this. Although, as I said, the knight is not like the bishop. If the bishop was behind the pawns, he would be able to take a certain amount of material, and then that would be the end of it. So I mean, you could go like knight here, and if I try pushing, you go back. So I'm not sure where he's going, or if he's threatening. I'm gonna come in like this, and I got to try pushing and pushing. Oops, that was horrible. I just gave up a pawn for absolutely nothing. I was not thinking. Now give up this pawn also. That was absolutely abysmal. Like I should have had some sort of counterplay this game, and I've completely botched it. Now, although ironically, it's not game over yet, and the knight has to go somewhere. So, it's definitely not looking good, but I pretty much have to play that. And yeah, so thank God he has not played this as good as he should have, and it's definitely given me more chances than I deserve. So, I could almost play pawn there. I maybe should have played at that move. I don't think he wants to sacrifice his queen, but like pawn here, I'm getting his rook, and then I don't know if I'm going to be able to successfully play pawn here, or if I'm going to lose everything. So I'm going to play pawn here first, and allow him to get his queen out of play, so to say. I guess he could go back. I gotta. What do I play? So I got to be careful. So if I play pawn here, let's try it like this and hope somehow his queen is getting too far away. So he gave me more play than I deserved, although it's still unlikely not enough. And I'm not sure if I could do anything with all this stuff here, though. Unfortunately for him, it's unclear how he's going to move forward here. And I can't, unfortunately, I can't do pawn there because okay, so I almost definitely did not want to do that. So is he going to sack? Okay, so he goes back. I almost have to do this. There's a lot of pieces hanging. This is crazy game. 30 seconds. So maybe opening up this file pawn here. Where's his rook go? Just not enough time. I don't think I had. It was close, but no. I lost. Yeah, ran out of time. I messed it up. You got me. Lost some rating points. Okay. See how difficult this game is. Really, these better games get into these squeezes. So let me just finish eating this soup. Okay. Yeah, so okay, so this guy's one of the better players and looks like he showed up late, so he's I guess he's not a berserker. Yeah, I've been seeing this strategy. guess there's a few different. I think that's a bad move, but let me try this. It might just lose immediately, but I think that might be playable. And so I think this at least blocks things up. Okay, he could take there. I'm not sure how serious of a threat that is. I got to defend this pawn, so I could play pawn here and see what he does. So he takes that. I almost definitely don't want to take it back. Then he'll definitely break through. But now he has allowed me pushing this pawn here. And I think, I mean, pawn there. And I guess if he, so he goes back immediately, which he almost has to. And then the question is, do I want to, I guess I got to go like this. I don't have to, but I'm going to block this off and see how he wants to handle it. So he opens up on the queen side. Oh, that was really bad. I just completely gave up that pawn for no good reason. Unfortunately, that was horrendous. It wasn't horrendous, like as in these games, to some extent it's just a pawn, but there was no reason for me to do that. There was, completely unforced error for no advantage to myself. I'm not sure which way he wants to go about doing things now. If he wants to try to, so I mean, it's still a game. You see, like his pieces are pretty cramped. I gave up one pawn for nothing, but it's unclear he's going to be able to break through here or how he goes about it. Not sure if I want to take towards the center or not. I think I can't take towards the center, although if he brings his queen out right away, yeah, so if my two pawns here could be pushed, like if I push forward and he takes and I take, and then he brings the queen there, I'm going to be in trouble. But so I got to make moves. I'm not sure. So he's bringing his queen. I'm not exactly sure what he's threatening. So I better take this space in the center right away. He gave it to me. I was thinking of doing this anyways, and I figured he would sack his bishop. But yeah, so he goes straight for the sacrifice. Why not? Break on through. It's the best strategy. And so I got to defend this pawn. I can't let him take that pawn. And it's not looking too good. Like, unfortunately, my counterplay here is probably too small. And I'm not sure I have anything here. I'm going to take... So I guess I'll try something like this. If he takes this pawn, and if he takes that pawn there, and hope that I have some sort of play. So he gets a little bit scared of that idea and tries to slow it down a little bit. Although, ironically, that stops his queen from taking my pawns. So if he does go back around, I'm not sure how that helped. And now I'm threatening pawn here. So I think he messed that up a little bit. He's probably still won. But if he hadn't brought his queen back, around, it would probably just take that pawn. My pawns are hanging. He's probably still won, but I'm not going to have time because I'm already playing quite a few hours of this, to look at like computer analysis. And I think he's got me like queen takes pawn, pawn here, then he's going to play queen behind. I got nothing. I got to do it at this point, but he just takes. Pawn here doesn't help. Doesn't matter. So, then he's going to get this pawn. So maybe at least try here, there. It's just too slow. He probably just takes this, no problem. But, a little interesting. Got to be a little bit careful. I don't know if he could just take this and be fine. If he doesn't take it, I could push. So I guess push that way. And he's just going to take this pawn next move with the bishop or that. So yeah, I'm basically lost no matter what I do, but try to make it the most complicated. And pawn here is just too slow. So I move the pawn, he snaps these pawns. This is just over, so I resign that. Okay, so that was unfortunate. I lost that game before. That other, the rating it's not everything rating. So okay. What's the difference whether you're the top player or not? I guess he was listening to me. I appreciate that, tuning me in. Jennifer's in the chat right now. We look forward to streaming later. So yeah, there's not too much material in this. So even I guess better players than me might look at my videos, and actually it's probably the better players the most likely. So I guess this guy must have been a provisional player that his rating went up quite a bit from beating me the first time. And who knows if he's like a ringer or something. Like it's a little weird. He's only played 45 games and his blitz rating's only 1,300. But whatever, just play. The ratings are usually the best indication. You're talking like money is karma or something, like how good is someone at what's going on in the game. So generally rating is the best determination. You think like, okay, are you expected to win or lose in performance level? And that performance level is largely, think per rating and, did I perform well? There's really knowing the game and thinking about it. So, Simonov's not here today. But you think like the people who play this game a lot have been thoroughly investigated, and we know the most likely patterns to be seen. So I'm not sure if I could slow him down, if taking helps or hurts. Sometimes if I force him to take, it could slow him down, or he could, if I don't take, maybe he's going to push the pawn, or no matter what I do, he's going to push the pawn. So I got to come up with a strategy to evoke some sort of weakness. Yeah, I figure that's the way he'd take. And, I guess I got to go for knight here and slow him down. So he's got to do pawn here probably to defend. And then if he ever does play pawn here, that, is allowing me my knight in. So I think he made a mistake. I'm not sure why he did that, because now my queen is preventing him from playing pawn there. So this is probably giving me a decisive advantage. I think last time, but maybe not so. So okay, so he slows it down, and he's got to look at what he wants to do. We want to play pawn here to defend against that. So I got to take the free pawn, and he really can't stop my knight from getting here. So I just go back. I could have considered going all the way back, and my knight, could go here, and so he could have tried thinking about pawn there as a way to prevent this sacrifice. Maybe I'll even go here, because knight here is also interesting sacrifice depending on how he plays it. So he defends against this one, not that one. And definitely this is a game I want to win. I think odd. So if I play, I could just play rook. I probably should just play rook takes pawn now. I'm thinking of like maybe some way like queen maneuver around. But I think just rook takes pawn. I hope I'm safe. It's going to be slow for him to advance these pawns. These pawns are really slow to advance. I got a bishop. So, like queen, I'll be able to get behind these pawns. So I think I have extremely good winning chances here. If he doesn't take the pawn, like I'm definitely just going to take this pawn and start taking from behind my queen. I can't imagine not taking the pawn, although I'm not going to pre-move because you never know. Okay, so he's deep in thought, but there were really, there's not the time to think because at that point, so the obvious problem is that if he takes here, my rook will completely stop both of those pawns. So I'm going to take this pawn, then to take that one, leave him with this one. Take. I'm going to start taking pawns first. He plays pawn there. Take. And I'll take one more. I could king over next move is fine. If he plays pawn there, then I do king over. This pawn here, my queen is on. It's coming really slow. So, so I thought it was my move. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and then this and then this, and I should have no problem because he even just the rook and king, he needs 3 files. Although, what did I do? That's not the way I wanted to play that one. So pawn there, definitely don't want to let that happen. So I could play rook takes pawn, bishop here, and I'm probably okay. If I do nothing, if I play bishop here first, yeah, so definitely didn't play that way. So I think I could play pawn here, queen takes pawn, and then if he takes, I take this pawn, I'll be fine. So I'm glad I found a good semi-solution to that. Maybe it's not that good of a solution. So it's kind of annoying. So if I take this pawn here, then he's going to take there, and that's going to be trouble. So it looks like I do have to take here. And I guess he sees that I have to take there. Problem is pawns are just crumbling, so it's just too slow because okay, yeah, so he resigns. Took a while. Okay, so see, in the top 5th, elected to lead. It's coming behind me quickly, although he's still got to win quite a bit more. Okay, so this Hat Goy Govt, to who knows, how these people choose their names. So there's two prominent. There's like Bags are Goy. He might be like from the Caucasus or some of these names. I don't know, but it's funny because they have Goy in them. So I forgot. I hate playing against this opening. I mean, it's not that bad, but like I lose very often to it, so it's quite annoying. And as I said, this side where I've had to hollow out my my defense. So yeah, I'm not really liking these openings. So I have to look in the computer. So these are kind of like what we'll just call horde openings. So you have to know the openings. You have to play them well. I'm not sure. So he might just be able to do knight takes pawn, and then queen in here on me. So he does queen there first, which so I'm not sure. I guess he just takes. So he's going to do knight takes pawn, and then bishop takes pawn, and then bishop takes here. I'm not sure if even I'll be able to do like a pawn here or something to. So it's kind of dire. You see if I'm holding him off somehow. I mean, obviously, if he has to sack the rook still, or whether he has a breakthrough, and obviously he could take that pawn, and if I play pawn there, that doesn't stop him. So, at this point, I'll let him take that pawn, and see if he's got anything after that, like what more plans he has than taking that pawn. Does he have a breakthrough? Does his queen come here? And now, I guess he has to sacrifice his bishop in order to get his queen behind. And it's looking good for him, but like I do have some counterplay. My pawn is already here. Or take that. And there is some counterplay here. This game's not over, so let's see what happens. He's just going to take this pawn and this pawn. So he worries and sacrifices his knight right away. So I think I'm winning a rook right away. So I'm not sure if I wanted to win the rook. So it even allows me just to take it instantly. So I'm not agreeing with the way he played that, but now I'm really not agreeing with the way he played it. Now he lets me now he lets me get the pawn all the way to the back rank. Yes, I'm not sure. I think he did not play this nearly as well as you should have. He could even be risking losing, because these pawns are going to be hard to stop. And where's his queen? I guess he played queen here, pawn here, maybe even. I mean, if it plays queen here and then I play like pawn there, okay, so I got 2 minutes, so let's try to think this out and see if there is a win here. So I could obviously play pawn there, and then he could play king here, and I can't do anything. So I could play pawn here. Okay, so that doesn't. If pawn there and then he had to play queen there, I thought maybe I could play pawn there and threaten pawn check and queen, but that's not the case. So if I play pawn there, he just plays king there, and it doesn't look like I have any threats, and he could just snap the pawn, and I'm stuck. So I guess pawn there is probably my best move, and he's probably just going to come back here. Queen here is probably a good holding square for him. And so go there. So if he goes back, I could defend with this pawn. And then, the hope is if he tries to win these pawns, I'm going to be able to play, queen there. And yeah, so he defends the rook. The problem is he takes this pawn. Yeah, I would have been able to march all those other pawns forward. So now the question is whether these pawns are just too slow, or if I could do something with these pawns to create a threat. So I mean, you see the the queen on white squares. That's probably his best move, and so if I play pawn here, he just takes, and then he's going to take. So I mean, I could gain myself one extra move. So I mean, pawn here, and then rook takes pawn, pawn there. I'm not sure if I'm accomplishing anything. Maybe he can't. So if I'm just lost, I'm just lost. I gotta play it. So I mean, he probably just play rook takes pawn, and then pawn there, and then queen takes pawn, and I just lost. I don't even have a good move. Anything I do, so if I play pawn here, he's just gonna. Okay, so I tried my best, but I couldn't get anything. If I look at the computer analysis later, maybe they'll be indicative of something, which is usually the best. If you want to get better, you have to check the computer analysis to really you start training yourself to find the best move. Okay, so got a bunch of coronavirus. We talk. So this is going to be over in 30 minutes, and then maybe I'll eat and then stream week in review, and maybe I'll look at a little bit of computer analysis. I could look at computer analysis now. If this is interesting, I get good views and feedback. Maybe I'll try to get another streamer on, and we could do computer analysis together. That Jesus, he's played a lot of games, 7,000 games of these. We've played quite a bit. So see what happens. He goes straight for the center. Now he's got to exchange because both of those pawns are undefended. And I forget which way I want to go. So I don't think he's hanging a pawn here. I mean, I take. I'll let him initiate the trade. So I'm not sure if I wanted to try h5 or a5. So that's interesting. He takes. So I'm going to take with the knight. I don't know if that was good to play on both sides. So it may not have been. So here, I guess I'm going to try knight here right away, see what happens. So he seems to have allowed me to get my knight to that square, which is unnecessary. I'm not sure why he did that. And I guess I'll just go back this way. If he tries pawn here, let's go back knight here. Now this pawn is trapped, and okay, I guess I got to do it. That's the sacrifice that is played. So, I mean, it looks like I'm right there. So, I'm not sure. Like, it's looking pretty good. I don't even think I do anything about that. He takes, I take. So, definitely. You'll probably take that right away, see what he's going to do. He doesn't even necessarily have any quick threats. So, these pawns could fall very quickly. So I'm liking the way this is looking. I'm not sure if he's going to accomplish anything here. So let's just hope I could snap these pawns quickly. Maybe I should have tried to break that chain quicker. I'm not sure what he's doing. So I don't think I have to sack or anything, or nor does that help me. So I probably just got to try to take this pawn, and I don't see that he's... yeah, I guess unfortunately pawn there actually is breaking through. So if I don't do anything, pawn here, and he queens. And because I can't stop there, so I could try knight here. Interesting knight here, because then if he plays... I think I'm going to do knight here. But then if he plays pawn there, I can play knight takes pawn. And if he does knight takes knight, then my king is... this pawn was stopping my king from getting over. So it looks like that will hopefully do the trick, although a little bit careful. So I'm going to play knight here. He's going to play pawn there. And I think I'm going to do queen there and snap up so he can't push this pawn without opening that up. And I think I could just take that. So I think this pawn takes knight, and I could just take it, and I'm going to be fine. When I sack this bishop, my rook will all of a sudden be covering the back rank. So to be a little bit careful about that, but you know, this pawn's going next move, and if he pushes, I just play king takes pawn, and I'm just going to take this pawn, give him no chance. Oh, crap. Crap, did I just really mess this up? Can I play here, and then he's going to play... Oh, no, okay, I'm okay. I play here, then I play bishop here. I thought I messed it up. I thought, but thank God it looks like I'm holding. I was scared for a second there. I thought, you know, if it turned out I had to let him get a queen, I still would have had play because I had quite a bit of material. But yeah, this is going to be over. I mean, he doesn't have to resign, but he can't push this pawn. I'm just going to start snapping. You're just too slow to do anything. And he plays till the end. It's fine. Okay, thank God. It was a close game there. Sorry in the chat. Have not been looking at the chat at all. I just wanted to document this Horde game, which I like quite a bit. And I don't know, he left or got disconnected, or maybe he really wanted to win that. When I competed as a youth, my ego was largely dependent on my results as chess. You know, certainly at this point where I basically just play chess for fun, there's no ego dependence on you know, winning or losing. So I'm not sure if he purposely left or not. Doesn't matter, I guess. Yeah, congrats to Wagatko. Definitely good play. You see that I've got quite a few games off of him. I think we only played once today. Bro beat me. Lucarelli, I guess, even though I beat him, is still performing better than me. Westlick, who we went 1-1, isn't playing now. Elected to lead, not to read. Will probably catch up and beat me. You know, if someone beats him, there's only 30 minutes left. So if you know, somehow he lost this game, okay, so here he is, and he won that game. And if he wins this game against me, he will be tied with me. So it doesn't matter. But he's a good player. So we'll look at this strategy, and so his strategy close up. He chose the H side to close up rather than the queen side, and it's probably okay either way. So at this point, knight here, he's just going to play pawn there, and I don't think I have a sacrifice ready, so I'm going to have to rework a different way, kind of like greedy. Do I want to? This is how I play against the Simonov, and I didn't even win a pawn yet. So sometimes, and Simonov, sometimes I'll play to win a pawn. Yeah, I don't really have anything. So when I play Simonov, sometimes I've won this pawn already that he will push this pawn and I'll play through. But this is the type position I've had against Simonov. In a lot of our games, we've actually played like 20, 30 moves deep into this position. So, I'll work the knight through to clear up a little bit of room. And then I got to try to set up some sort of light color pawn blockade unless he wants to go for the breakthrough right away. So he figures just push right away. Don't let me attempt to set up a light colored blockade. Yeah, basically got to take. I'll go here. He's probably got to go pawn there to defend. And I still have somewhat of a blockade because he can't really move any of his pawns without giving me at least the ability to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns. So, you could see, like, if I could sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns twice in the center, it's game over. I'm going to win because I'm going to block it off. But it's not so easy to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns, and but at the same time, like, anything he does is going to probably cause him a little bit of a problem because if he tries coming down this way, it opens up one of these files. My rook will gain the file, so my rooks are powerful and like stopping what's happening in 2 files. So it's in the center, and in the center, whenever he tries to play on one of these squares, he's likely to lose a pawn. So as of now, I'm just going to move my king back and forth. Like, maybe I could move my bishop or wiggle around, but like at this point, so yeah, I might have to worry about pawn here. So like pawn here is a little bit of a problem. If he does do pawn there, I'm probably going to have to play knight here, and it's question whether he could take the knight. In fact, I probably should play knight here now, and maybe I shouldn't have done that yet. I should have waited till he played pawn there. So that was probably a bad idea, but it does put a little block in him, and now so I'm not sure if he could get away with pushing pawn there. I mean, if he pushes pawn there, I don't have to take. And so now when he goes here, I could almost bring my bishop in this way. Maybe I'll do it a move and see how difficult it is for him to play pawn here if he wants to just do it. And he's eventually get pawn there and here, and I don't know if I have anything useful here to do. I'm just going to wait till he tries to break through. So if I'm not sure if I was better off trying to block there or not. So here I could bring my rook in. So at least now when he pushes pawn here, my bishop's on, so he's losing a pawn. And if he pushes pawn there, I could sacrifice my rook. So I have a blockade here, but it's not like a winning blockade because it said, like, as of now, okay, so he has to do that eventually, and now I get the pawn. I'm just going to go back. I got to be careful, but he's still, sometimes you could push that pawn too. So he likely has to sacrifice somewhere else. So I got him to sacrifice on this side of the board. He probably is going to sacrifice on this side of the board. So he goes like this. He doesn't really have a threat, as I say, because if he takes with the pawn, I take with the queen, and then he's in bad situation. So if he pushes this pawn forward, I could probably sack here. I don't know if I'm won here, but this is definitely a good game. It's pretty close, pretty even here. And it's actually ironic because if I win this game, he probably won't get ahead of me in the tournament. This game is like for 5th place. If he wins this game, like he'll almost certainly get 5th place. And if I win this game, it might prevent him from getting 5th place. But just in terms of the game, what's going on? It's a bind, and so now, pawn here is being threatened. The question is whether I want to take with the rook or the bishop. So I probably want to take with the bishop. I'm certainly just like straight material, like bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, and I'm almost crashing through. I don't see the bishop helping. Like rook takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, and I don't know. Maybe you could play pawn there immediately, or take. The one advantage of the bishop is that when he plays pawn here, the bishop could take this pawn, but I don't see, but he's just going to play pawn there, and I'm not sure. So I'll just do the obvious. It could be, looking back, it could be rook takes was, sacrificing the rook for 2 pawns was better than doing the bishop for 2 pawns. And now I probably have to sacrifice here. So this is interesting also. One thing is interesting because this pawn could become dangerous. So these are one of these situations where I probably don't want to take it. You almost definitely don't want to take it. Question is, do I play like, how do I threaten something? So I got to worry about time. So I'm going to try to play a little bit faster. And I guess I got to play there. I'm not sure. And now I could play like here, because his thing's not really crashing through. And I guess if he plays pawn there, like one thing I'm not sure what he's doing next. Like what happens if he takes and I take, and am I winning? So almost definitely that's the move he has to make. So let me try here. So I'm maintaining some sort of threat of pushing through, breaking through. Maybe he plays pawn here right away. This bishop could still run. So if he doesn't take the bishop, queen here might be my next move. I got to be very careful about time. So I'm going to play a little bit quickly. Let me try queen here. Just maybe that was a bad move. I needed to be on. I needed to be on that square. So I'm not sure if I want to do that. And now it's looking a little bit scary. So I got to give up that pawn. I didn't want to have to give up that pawn, but I got to get behind that. Let's see what he does. And time is very limited now. So I got to see, like, if I'm holding, I'm holding. If I'm not holding, I'm lost anyways. But yeah, so looks like that's it. You got me. I'm down on time also. My queen. So interesting. I have to look at that game in later in, so he beats me. So now he gets ahead. He's 100%. But that was a close game. Came down to the end. Yeah, have to check the computer to see if I messed that up. But yeah, I tried my best. I did my best defense. I think it gives me a new screen. So, you can see the computer analysis. And so here, So it seems to be saying he was basically won the whole time. At some point, I might be winning here, like as Simonov has pointed out, the computer isn't necessarily. Oh man! So it started me a new game, and I lost on time. It forfeited me. Stiller Zug, a good game. I'm not sure if I played him before. So I was looking at. That's why I didn't want to do it. But I was looking at the game, and um, unfortunately, that's happened multiple times, and it withdrew me because when you look at another screen, sometimes it starts a new game for you and will automatically forfeit you and cost you the game, and it didn't go to the screen, so or it doesn't beep or something like that. Whatever there's a, I'm not sure if it's a bug with the system or if it's my own fault, but that's happened a few times where yeah, I just lost the game instantly because I didn't realize I got impaired, and that's why I didn't want to check the computer analysis right away. But I mean, for people who really like the game, I like playing, and usually I don't play Horde this much. So just because today and coronavirus and everything being canceled, I figured I'd play the whole stream and talk through it. But you mean if you want to get better at the game, study is more important than playing. I mean, playing is obviously important, but you need to put you're probably more time into studying than actual play. I forget how this works. Like I think you're okay here, and I'm not sure why he played into this. I mean, he's got knight there. I could almost. I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not sure why he played into this like that. I'm not sure if I wanted to go about it that way either. That could have been a mistake. So let's go like this. Okay, yeah, I have seen this before. So, and I guess he did berserk me also. So you think about this. So, I mean, I could try pawn takes and then pawn takes and then pawn there. And then he'll eventually do the knight sacrifice. I'm not sure how well I'm surviving. Or I try like pawn takes and I mean, I could try pawn here first because I did push that pawn. I got to be a little bit careful and try moving up this defense line. So I'm not sure if I want to push this pawn or his various levels of attack. If I want to push here, I mean, I got to defend the pawn. So I think I'm going to go there just so I could push here if I need to. I'm not sure. Also the this pawn looking weak. So these are the type of things you got to pay a lot of attention to. So now it's like, okay, which I think I'm going to take this pawn. This pawn's only defended by one. So like, but I think I like my position here. Actually, I'm not sure if he made a mistake right at the opening. I think I'm just going to play pawn there. I don't even know really what if he's got serious threats. If so he takes. I guess he's going to sack two pieces, and then he has even the queen to sack. So so I could play pawn here and try to be super safe. If I take, he takes back, then he's got the rook sacrifice and breaking through. So I consider taking and then pawn there, and then if he tries like queen in here, pawn there, rook takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, and I'm losing that. But so if pawn takes, queen takes, pawn there. If he does queen in there, and then I could play pawn there. So I'm not sure. This is if I get pawn in here quickly and a double defense, I could be winning. So that's why I figured he played there immediately. And so unfortunately, he's queen there, and he's got multiple threats. So if I push here, and then he takes the pawn, I push there, he's breaking through. So no matter what, he's breaking through. If I do pawn there, and he does queen takes pawn, I might have the most counterplay. The slowest form, slow him down the most. And I guess I might even play pawn here first. I don't know if that's good. And then pawn here and try to break through. So it looks like he's got me, but try to increase my chances as most as possible. So he could play king up here, but I'm not sure if that's what he wants to do. He probably has to take that twice, and his pawns are pretty far up. So he decides to sack right away. I'm not sure if I was better off taking towards the center or not, but it looks like I need counterplay right away. So I got to may have been bad. So I'm not sure if I want to play. I guess pawn there defends that a little longer if he takes. I'm not sure if I'm coming across too slow, but this looks like my best chance. Yeah, so takes that way. So I'm here. Not sure. Can he get away with taking this pawn? Pawn here is a serious threat. Unfortunately, oh man, now he could take this pawn. I slipped because of the time. I mean, he probably had me beat no matter what I did there. And it was close, like came down a little bit. So, it's fun of the game. And that's, I like the definitive amount of these, now I'm at 50%. So elected not to lead again. And, so it's tough to play for so long. And, certainly talking while playing is another skill of difficulty. Okay. So what's going on here? Did he mess up? I think he messed up here. I mean, it's not game over, but I think I have some sort of advantage here, but I'm not sure. Like, I mean, he goes straight to kind of block off all my counterplay, and I'm not sure if I wanted to let him do that or not. So, if I do knight here, that helps. Not really. I mean, you could just kind come around. So I'm not sure if I have a sacrifice here. I probably do, so I should be careful of that. I'm not sure if I'm even threatening anything. Doesn't really look like it. I didn't really want to get in like this, so unfortunately, I think I'm not actually threatening anything. I probably am forced to sacrifice my rook at this point. Could even play pawn there, but like, you know, at this point, I probably have to sacrifice my rook, and I'm just not threatening to break through. Although he might have a hard time, so he defends the pawn. So I'm not sure why he did that. If he had given me this pawn, he looks kind of stable here, but now knight takes pawn there seems like a pretty substantial threat. So he may have given me more play than he should have. We'll see what his plans are. If he's just going to leave it, or okay. So let's see. I mean, if he pushes the issue with the pawn, he's going to let me break through, and the question is how fast. Like, I mean, pawn there, queen there, pawn there, queen there, and breaking through, or else knight here, and I might also, you know, have some threats. So I'm not try knight here right away. You know, knight here, knight takes pawn. And so, I mean, it looks like here knight takes pawn is a threat. And if he pushes the pawn to defend it, I'm coming around. So the question, is it enough to win? And I'm not sure if this is enough to win. It's looking good for me, relatively. You're going to say I'm behind his pawns. Even him coming here quickly, I might be able to just not take that. Definitely. I don't know why. I just looking back, like I should have just taken this pawn here. That was horrible. Like, this pawn wasn't the one I wanted. This pawn's the one I wanted. So unfortunately, that was like a completely wasted move. I might be in a good enough position where I'm winning, even having completely wasted that move. No, now I'm completely lost. I had, I don't know if I'd taken the pawn first, if I had some. Now I'm just completely lost. I can't stop this. So, I mean, maybe pawn here doesn't even stop it. You could just check, and I'm lost. So I don't know how I messed that up. I have to look back at the tournament. That one looked like I was winning. Last time I tried to look at the game, I ended up getting paired and lost right away. So I gotta say, I thought that was looking pretty good for me, but no, seems to think that he's largely better the whole time. Although, you know, certainly that move. Yeah, so that one move was really bad, but it was interesting. So faded towards the end. I played towards the end. I kind of lost the will to just keep on talking and playing, but I figured I'd go through the whole tournament since I'm here. We'll see, you know, like look at my results towards the end. I mean, one thing, I've been playing higher rated players, but you know, someone just lost. It's tough to talk and play so long. Sometimes you play so long and you talk and just lose the thread and start performing worse because it's tough to play and talk so long. But you know, certainly you know, that's why chess is a good test of concentration, and you know, even long-term concentration. that requires consistent concentration over a period of time. Okay, so what's going on here? Do I have threats? I'm not sure. Is pawn there a threat? Do I want to do that? Does working my knight around help? Does working my queen around help? Well, that's forcing the issue. I thought maybe like queen there or something, but now even he gives me that pawn. That was pretty likely a mistake on his part. See what he does. If he takes, if he doesn't, if he pushes, I could probably do a big sacrifice. Now look at what's going on. So there's a lot of time here. Likely he didn't play this as well as he should have. How to go about it? Is he threatening something? And you can't really break through. Even like rook here, I got to see if I'm threatening anything. I mean, do pawn here, and I could go back to this idea of bringing my queen around, although it's unclear if I'm actually threatening anything. So he forces the issue. That isn't quite forcing breakthrough. So you'll see, like bringing the rook there, pawn there is too much of a risk for him. Now I think that breaks through. Oh no, it doesn't. But I mean, rook takes pawn, then rook takes pawn is what I should have done that last move. So I think here's my strategy, and the move is rook takes pawn. If he takes back, pushing or check here. I'm not sure how that helps him. If he does, I'll sacrifice. If he takes, I take. I mean, he could push the pawn through, but okay. So here he lets me break through. I better do it. So let's just start taking the pawns. Pushes. I mean, you take that pawn. Which one do I want to take? I mean, so I could do. Unfortunately, that is a threat. So if I do queen takes pawn, king there, take. That's giving up a queen. I'm not sure I want to do it. Bishop takes pawn, then queen takes pawn. So I probably have to. It's not looking good, but oh, so he does it that way. I'm not sure why he did that. I guess I take, and now, I mean, because this pawn's hanging, I'm not sure why he did that. I can't see how that was in his self-interest there. So move my king out this way, and I think my queen could make threats. I think I could snipe these pawns. I'm not sure he could make a side threat. Like pawn here is a threat. Let me just play pawn there real quick. Whether I want to do rook takes and try to sacrifice before, or just I probably just queen takes right away. And that is his threat, and actually that's a mate threat, so it is annoying. Maybe I should have been more careful about that. So I guess I got to go all the way here. That's annoying. I don't know why he did that. I guess it's a reasonable move there. I'm not sure if that helps. He takes pawn there, rook there. Yeah, that's what likely was his move, but so we take pawn there. And he has multiple ways. So you got me. Okay, so good tournament. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. I'll do a week in review. I thought, God forbid the coronavirus and just sitting around here. I play some chess and give my chance to stream some Horde, look back and maybe think about improving my game. So thanks to everyone who played. God bless. Take care. I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for tuning in.